All right. Thank you, everyone. This is the Curriculum Committee meeting of the school board, and it is September 2nd, 2025 at 4:30. Melanie will be a minute or two late, so we'll welcome her when she arrives. We'll start with introductions. I'm June Kruger, school board member.
Kelly Lang, school board member.
Kelly Downs, Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
Tina Van Roo, District Data and Assessment Coordinator.
Erin Fowles, Curriculum Coordinator.
Adrienne Schneider, Program Administrator.
Thank you. And the first item on our agenda is updates to Second Step digital platform. And presenting that will be Mrs. Maelstrom and Mrs. Hughes.
Thank you for the opportunity for me to share with you our annual update related to the social emotional curriculum's primary resource. This is an annual presentation, so it might look familiar to some of you, but the intention of this presentation or discussion is just to give you some updated information about this particular digital platform. Our social emotional learning curriculum was board approved for 4K through grade 8 in 2021. And with that approval, the primary resource was selected, and that resource is Second Step. It's a digital platform, and because it's a digital platform, unlike a textbook that stays stationary from year to year, the digital platform is updated with changes every year. So every fall, my student services coordinator, Carrie Hughes, goes through every single lesson within that digital platform and looks for updates or changes. And that's important to us because one of the things that we guaranteed at the point in which the board approved that curriculum is that we would bring forward and make very transparent any changes to the digital platform. In addition to a digital platform that is used as the primary resource, a second component that was approved in 2021 was the district communication plan. So in advance of every lesson taught, a communication is sent out in the site newsletter that tells parents about what will be taught, kind of the primary lesson objectives, and then provides an at-home connection activity, a question or prompt for parents to carry over at home if they choose to. And as we review the digital platform's update, as we review the digital platform every year, we align any recommended changes to the communication plan. So my goal tonight is just to talk to you about those changes. And I'm actually going to jump into this graphic kind of visual format. And what you're going to see here is you're going to see all of the changes that were made to the digital platform. So at the elementary level, there were changes to 2 units. There were some changes to grade 4, unit 1, and then grade 5, unit 1. And what you will see in unit 1 are, hi Melanie. What you will see in Unit 1 are some minimal changes that don't compromise the learning objective. So in the graph, what you'll see is the lesson title and then a description of any updates that were made. So what you'll notice in grade 4, Unit 1, is that the changes were really specific to like a lesson title update. They changed the title from setting a good class goal to actually, and there's a typo there, it was setting a good goal, and then they changed it to setting a good class goal. So through those 3 lessons, the updates were pretty minimal. They changed the word roadblock to obstacle, and then they changed the final lesson 5 from being an independent task to a group task. The updates were considered minimal, and when I aligned those to our board-approved curriculum, they did not impact the integrity. They aligned with the curriculum. Now, lesson 5, grade 5, lesson 1 through 5 in unit 1 had some more substantial changes. And what you will notice if you read down the table, and I won't read through all of that for you, the primary concept continues to focus on goal setting. However, the platform update took kind of a new twist to that. They updated the videos, they had different characters, and while continuing to work on goal setting, they changed from really focusing on the format of setting a goal, progress monitoring a goal, acknowledging obstacles or roadblocks and how to work around it, and moved into it the concepts of motivations, challenges, and habits for success. And so when Carrie Hughes and I did our alignment, our opinion was that they moved away from the board-approved curriculum substantially enough that our recommendation is that we don't teach those in the upcoming year. So you're going to see that in another place in the review, both in grade 5 and grade 8. Although some of the changes might be considered positive changes, good improvements, when it moved away from the board curriculum, we made the decision that we're going to eliminate those lessons. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. So at the middle school level, there were a couple of changes that were pretty minimal. So grade 6, actually, this was a lesson redesign, and I wanted to acknowledge it. Unit 1, Lesson 1, they redesigned the lesson. It's called A Soundtrack for Success. I put it in here, but it was actually a lesson that we didn't include right from the start. We have a West Bend creative lesson that's called Who Can Support You? You might remember there were a couple lessons that we created and added, and that was one of them. And then there's a lesson on digital citizenship that we created and added into the sequence. Because that was not taught in the original sequence and wasn't part of the curriculum, the recommendation is that we are going to continue teaching the lesson called Who Can Support You. There's no changes to that, but I wanted to acknowledge that for you in this review. And then similarly, grade 7, Unit 1, Designing Your Future, is also a redesign. But that lesson was not included in our sequence either, so I'm acknowledging that they changed it, but we had removed that anyway, and we're going to continue with the board-approved lesson called Who Can Support You? So moving on to lessons 4, sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around here, to lesson 7 in Unit 1, there were also some changes. This is the goal-setting unit, and unlike the one that I just spoke about in grade 5, in grade 7, the changes were really minimal. So the types of changes that were made didn't change the lesson objective and continue to align with the board-approved curriculum. The vocabulary was updated from using the word roadblocks to obstacles. There were a couple of handouts that were actually simply deleted from the series. They're no longer using them. And then one of the videos was updated to have a new example of overcoming roadblocks or obstacles. And that video highlights a hurdler, yes, who is an Olympian, and just kind of that work towards setting a goal, having an obstacle, and then overcoming that obstacle. But the overall updates were really minimal, and they maintained alignment to the board-approved curriculum. Grade 8, again, I'm acknowledging this, but it was not a lesson that was included in our original sequence. Unit 1, Lesson 1 has been redesigned. We use our West Bend School District created lesson, Who Can Support You, and we will continue to do that. But again, important that I let you know. So the last set of lessons is the Unit 1, Grade 8 lesson structure or sequence. And this, very similarly to the one in 5th grade, the updates felt too far away from the board-approved curriculum. There were some positive changes made. They actually moved this away from the idea of kind of that if you recall, this lesson sequence originally talked about having kids identify what unique attributes about their identity were important, what their interests and strengths were, how to harness their strengths. And they moved this to a more traditional goal setting, focusing on motivation and how to increase or decrease your motivation. I think some of the changes were positive, but too far away from the approved curriculum for us to feel comfortable teaching those. So for the upcoming year, our intention is to remove those. With that, the other thing that I wanted to mention, and one of the reasons I think I feel comfortable saying, you know what, in the current year, we're just going to step aside from those lessons that don't neatly align to the board-approved curriculum, is we will be moving forward with our counseling team and a district team to do a curriculum review of our social emotional learning and also our school counselor curriculum. And our hope is that we're being thoughtful about the timeline so that as we start to make some of our facilities changes, we're in attention to that. So for example, right now, our school counseling curriculum is a K-4 alignment, so kindergarten through 4th grade. As we reconfigure, it makes sense that we're really taking a look at whether or not, number one, it meets the expectations that we want it to meet, it meets our standards, and then also whether or not we need to look at how that impacts our 5th graders coming into the building. So with that, a couple of other things just to reiterate. All of the platform updates that we reflected in this overview have been updated in the social emotional learning curriculum document that's online for families and community review, and the communication plan. So those lessons in 4th and 8th grade that have been removed for the upcoming year have been they've been removed from those 2 lesson plan sequences and the curriculum or the communication review as well. And then, as has always been the case, families have the option to opt out, and principals will be sending that out to families, letting them know about the social emotional learning curriculum, providing them access with the Google Doc that allows them to opt out. Parents can always call and make that request as well, and we honor that. And I believe that's the end of my presentation. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I did notice that there are a lot more changes this year than there had been in previous years. So I do appreciate that you're keeping in alignment with what the board had originally voted on and omitting some of those sections. And also, I totally agree with moving forward with the schools changing, and obviously, there might be some things changing with the curriculum in those areas as well. So
Absolutely.
I understand that, and I apologize for my tardiness. It was the first day of school bus issue, and so it was a photo finish.
We completely understand that as school district employees, so we're glad you're here. And we will be back. You'll see members of my team and our school counseling team this year as we work through that process. So Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. And then the next item on our discussion is 2025-2026 curriculum work, and Kelly Downs will be presenting on that.
Thank you for your time tonight. I have a lot of information for you that I'm very excited to share with you because it's the work this team has been doing, and we finally have been able to invite the teachers into the work. So we were pretty excited about that, and we'll share that with you tonight. So you have seen this, the curriculum phases that has gone through. We have 4 different phases: the evaluate, then we go to develop and design, and please take note that there are 2 options or pathways under develop and design. Once we go through evaluate, we determine which of those pathways we feel is the best to move towards. So when you're in develop and design, you could be in either 2A, where you're just revising for improvement, or you could be in a resource recommendation where we feel like we need a completely new resource as our primary resource. That is exactly what math just went through. So they have adopted the new resource, they went through this process. Then we have implement. We have 3 years for implementing. And that was a very intentional and critical choice. The first year, teachers are just getting their head about what that curriculum does and how to make it work. The second year, they're settling in, and that third year, they're finally getting their feet on the ground with it. And we want to be very intentional with supporting them with 3 years of support to launch that, so that they are really keeping in the practice of the new resource, the spirit of the new resource, and therefore impacting kids to the best of our ability. Finally, we have assess and refine. Once we make it through that stage of implementing, we can now take a look back and go, all right, what worked great? What do we need a little bit more with? And kind of assess where we've landed with the revision of those units or with the new resource. And then we begin the whole cycle again. Now, we showed you earlier that we have a reconfiguration pathway for all of our content areas. And again, I just want to stress this part is a little clunky because we're trying to catch people up from things that they didn't get over the past few years and putting them in places that make sense. Also thinking about reconfiguration and what we're going to need when Badger becomes a 6-8 middle school, when 5th grade goes back to elementary, and trying to put all of these content areas in places that make sense for them. So you'll notice under evaluate, we have social studies K-12, art K-12, music K-12, world language 6-12, and CTE. The ones that are in blue are different content areas that will be straddling 2 phases within 1 year, which once we get to a commencement phase, we won't be doing that anymore. Everybody will just be in one nice clean spot. So those are the ones that are having to straddle. You'll also notice CTE on there. While it is on there, it is part of our curriculum cycle that really doesn't fall within our purview. So I'm just noting it for you, but we will not be referencing that tonight. That would be from Brenda O'Brien and from Tim Harding. So this is where everybody is living right now. And I want to really emphasize with you the same thing that our team emphasized with all of the teacher teams on Thursday when they were here for their PD day, that this entire system process was designed with the intention of giving the teachers the recommendation power. We wanted them in the process. We needed their voice. They own it. And our team comes alongside to help them through the process. A good example of that, just to be real clear, is when we did math. Although Sarah Brown and Kurt Marquardt and I led that process, anytime we voted for consensus, none of us were part of it. We never voted. We weren't part of any part of it. We just kept questions in front of them, kept the process in front of them, and the teachers were the one who wrestled with the work, did the work, and made the recommendation. That is how this entire process was designed in that spirit. So we took the evaluate phase, when I say we, I mean the CNI team, and there's key actions that were in there. We broke those key actions down into steps for our teams to go through. And we have deliverables for every single one of these phases. Now, what will happen is we have recruited 2 facilitators for every single content area. Those facilitators will rotate every single year. They're only on deck for a year, and they are charged with leading their teams through the work that you will see here. So for example, social studies is in evaluate in their first year. They are going to be producing the deliverables that you see on the right side. Note that those deliverables, there's not one per every single key action, but there are ones that make sense. So our facilitators know that they will be leading their teams to produce a vision statement, to produce learning goals. And then they move on to a notice and wonder document and a data analysis summary. And every step of those deliverables is designed to get them down to that 1-8 portion there, which says narrative, recommendation for that phase 2 path. So they will have looked at their data analysis. They will have a heat map of standards that CNI provides for them, a heat map of a content, which we're providing for them, and then they will make a summary analysis. They'll do a summary of high impact instructional strategies as they research what's best in their field. They will do a root cause analysis, which will lead them to a needs assessment, so that they can really have a very informed decision by the time they get to that recommendation. At that point, they'll be coming before you to give you their recommendation about what they think needs to happen next. If you look on the bottom, you can see that we have different facilitators, but I also want to point out those administrators that are on there. We have an administrator assigned to every single one of these content teams. So on PD days, on August 28th, the other day, every one of these facilitators or administrators that you're seeing were with their teams to be there to help support and answer hard questions and get them through the process. We also have CNI representatives for every single one of them as your point person. And then Erin Faust, in her coordinator role, is supporting these facilitators and organizing all the details. So when these deliverables come through, Erin will be reviewing them and with our team and making sure that everything is there. Can we help them in any other way? So that's evaluate. The next one is develop and design. You'll see this is much shorter. It's revising for improvement. They're going to be updating their curriculum to align with state and national standards. They're basically looking at their heat maps and deciding, wait a minute, we're missing this, or we need more of that and less of this. They will revise their units to address key learning questions. And then they're going to come up with an implementation plan. How do we roll out these new changes to teachers, to administrators, to parents, to students? They'll come up with that plan, and that's what they'll be bringing to the curriculum committee for their recommendations to you. Again, I want to highlight our amazing facilitators. You can take a look there. These are all teacher leaders in their prospective fields. And then you can see the CNI representatives on the side as well. This is the heavy lift, the develop and design. This is the resource recommendation where they have a lot of work to do. Most of these teams are going to be requiring extra hours outside of PD days to get it done. There's just a lot to do. Notice that they're going to be starting with establishing a vision, developing the rubric to prepare for reviews, and then they dive into that rubric and they talk to the vendors. And there's the steps on the left, we also have like RFIs in there and things like that, but that's a CNI thing that we'll be helping them through. Their big job is to develop that rubric and then start using that rubric with the different options that the vendors will provide to them. Eventually, they present those resource recommendations to you. If you look on the key actions on the side, there's more to the key actions than we have as deliverables because most of it gets summed up in that presentation to you. But what they will be doing is also, once we get that recommendation, I'm sure you remember this, they are going to be taking it to their larger content teams so that for their feedback, vendors will present to those larger content teams. They'll get to see the resources. They will offer consultative feedback to the team that's been digging in with the work. That smaller team will do some site visits. They will get feedback from public and then make final recommendations. Once they have that recommendation and they've brought it to you, they then need to start thinking about an implementation plan. How are we going to implement it? How are we going to monitor it? They need to figure out assessment and grading because that's often very impacted. So for math, we had whole new things to grade that we've not had before. So how are we going to do it? How are we going to keep it in alignment with each other so that kids have a universal experience? They have to determine plans for coaching and the plan for training teachers and leaders. All of those steps are summed up in the implementation plan. So there's a lot that goes into that. You can see that this is a heavy lift, but when you're adopting a new resource, we have to be careful and we want to make sure we're being very thorough. You can see that we have world language and ELA 610 in this category. On August 28th, they engaged with ELA 610, engaged with their literacy specialist in informing them more about the science of reading and how that will impact their grade level. So they have that information before they jump into this resource review. They have another team that's helping them with that resource review, led by Brett Hartman and Chrissy Steinhaus. And world language is in that reconfiguration piece of trying to figure out what is this all going to look like. They are not the only ones. We have music and art, and all of our electives are in that space of what does this look like when we move to an exploratory. And I want to be super clear, we have no decisions made on any of this. We are in the process. We are just starting the process. The work they've done the other day was really creating a vision about, well, what do we think we want our program to be about, and what would the learning goals be to support that? So at this point in time, that's as far as we are. We hope that as we go through the process, we'll have more updates about what they see that vision to be, but I want to stress again that these decisions are going to be made by, or recommendations, I should say, are going to be made by the teacher teams when they bring it forward to you. So at this time, that's where they are. When we get into implementing, that's where we have a few teams there right now. We have ELA 5th grade. They are implementing CKLA this year. Math 612 is implementing illustrative math. And we have ELA K4, which is in year 2. We don't have any teams in year 3 right now. And you can see there who's representing them. And again, minimal, because the work that they're going to be doing here is really diving into the resource. So when you look at all of the PD days that we have scheduled for math and ELA, they're going and planning these lessons with each other. So they're coming together. We have coaches there to walk them through every single unit, make sure they have a deep understanding of what they're teaching, and that they get some alignment with each other about how they're going to approach it. So that's their year-long work. So really, what you can expect from them is updated curriculum documents. We've shown you some of those curriculum documents, and now we want them to walk through and make sure they are super accurate. So throughout the year, our math team is going to be looking at it and going, yes, this is what we're doing, or no, we need to add this or that and the other. And then they will be bringing that back to you and reporting to you about what their year was like, what was working, what wasn't working, and hopefully we'll have updated curriculum documents for you as well. Assess and refine, again, is that reflection stage. We're looking back. And again, this group is jumping in when we didn't have this process. So they are kind of, trying to put it all together. In addition, you'll see that we have science in this, and we've added a little bit to their plate because of the construction that will be going on at the high school. They get the added fun of being able to look at what would we really need a facility to look like for science. What are high-performing districts? What are they doing in science? And what kind of structure do we need for that in our facilities? And they'll be putting forth those recommendations as well. So in addition to what you see here for them, they are also doing that work along with it. You'll see that this stage also has presenting findings to the curriculum committee and the school board. But that comes after year 1 and year 2 for both of those. You'll be seeing things come through. Because if they make any changes to that curriculum, we want to make sure that everyone knows what those are and are okay with what we're doing and those recommendations. Notice on here that they also have recommending future PD needs. A big part of this stage is looking into best practices, best instructional practice, and finding out what more do we need to learn to be even better at what we do. So that's a big part of the stage, and so they will be coming back with, we'd really like to do this for professional development as a recommendation. So in order to guide this process, like we said, we come alongside them, and our facilitators are really leading it, and we didn't want them to be operating blind. So we have developed a facilitator guide for every single one of the phases. And I'm going to pull up just the evaluate phase for you so you can get a feeling for what this looks like. So this is what the facilitators get. They're not able to edit this, they're not able to change it. This is what we're working with. All that to say, this is still 1.0. We've told all of the teams, we've created this, we hope it supports you, but give us lots of feedback because we're going to update it and change it if you tell us we need something more. So we have an overview of the stage there, what they're going to need to deliver, the key actions, and then a timeline for when things have to come. And then we have templates and things to help them, for example, develop team norms so they can work together effectively, And this was a big part that we emphasized very strongly when we met with all of the facilitators, that this has to be consensus. When we have teacher teams coming together to do these big projects, we can't have it just be a majority, because if it's a close majority, that means we've got a lot of people who are not happy about what we're doing. So we really want them to build consensus, and this is the process that we've asked every single one of the facilitators to take their team through whenever they're making decisions towards those recommendations. Then we talk about who does what, and finally we get into the key actions. You'll notice that there's key actions all the way through. Every single, how do I get back, Tina? Oh, sorry, got it. This one? Oh, thank you very much. So in addition to this, we've organized a digital binder for them. This is where they're putting all of their work. Oh, really? Okay, sorry. Thank you for your patience. My phone's over there. We'll get in one of these days. I'm not getting the message. Oh, sure. You changed the share settings? You're wonderful. Okay. Oh, no, I gotta go back here, right? You're amazing. Thank you very much. So I really wanted to point this out to you because every single one of the content area facilitators received a digital binder that looks like this. They have an overview of the curriculum cycle and who does what, but please notice on the side that they have every single phase here. This will live with them for the entirety of the 7-year cycle. All of their work will be in one place. Everything they make goes here. And if you take a look at the phase, they have their deliverables at the top with where they're at with it, who the team members are, their dates, and then every one of the deliverables has a section for where they can put it. So our teams have already begun working in these, and this is the document that Erin will be checking very specifically. I mean, we all will be, but she's going to be our point person to go through and see how they're doing on what they've gotten here and how else we can help them with it. So we wanted to make sure you had a heads up about where these recommendations are coming from and when to expect them. So on November 4th, we're hoping to bring to you Art, Music, and World Languages 2A. Their recommendations about what they want to do for recommendations of 2A to determine what pathway. They were in phase 1 evaluate. They're going to come forth with their conclusions. Then, in February 16th, there is no curriculum committee report, but we wanted to make you aware that that is when we're hoping to bring vendors in to present to the rest of the team for those that are in 2B, which is that resource review. From March through April, March 17th, we're hoping that ELA 610 and World Language will be presenting to you their narrowed choices of what they're looking at for their resources, and then we'll take those to public viewing. Then in May, we're hoping that they're bringing you a final choice or a final recommendation. And then on the 11th, we're hoping that we'll go to board discussion and the 26 recommendations to board action if it all goes as planned, like if you approve of their recommendations. Then in June, the rest of the teams will come through. We have Math 610 to update you on their implementation and any adjustments, as well as ELA K5. Also, Science will be coming to you reporting on their PD that they did, as well as their facility recommendations. And I just wanted you to see what it looks like. Here's the process in action. This was last Thursday, and we were able to go and meet with every team, and you can see what it looks like when they're working together on this process. And so far, the feedback we've gotten has been pretty positive about the way the teams have worked together, so we're excited about that. And by the way, we did give out a survey. We have 55 responses right now, so we'll give you more information on that when we get the full. We've given them a little time, so thank you for your time and your patience. Do you have any questions for us?
Love this. This is a great outline, so I look forward to seeing everything progress.
Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you.
Very thorough, and it looks like we're heading in the right direction, and appreciate all the hard work.
Thank you. We appreciate that very much.
Yeah, I just want to echo, thanks for the update on all that. It's a lot of work I can see going into this and so organized. So thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome. And thank you to the teacher teams for engaging in the work. I mean, they've already gotten a great start, so.
All right. Then if there are no further questions, then I will go ahead and end our meeting today. Thank you, everybody.